Hey guys, I am here today at the Humboldt County Museum, and we're going to be doing a commemorative ceremony for the railroad coming to Winnemucca. It's the 150th anniversary of this little town having a railroad. So they're going to have a little presentation, and I thought, what the heck, I'll just come down here and video it, and so we'll see what's going on. Doesn't look like we're going to have a large crowd, but it should be good. And I just thought I'd document this just for posterity's sake, and hope it's not too boring for you. My truck's still out of commission, so I can't go out into the desert yet, hopefully soon. So hang in there and let's see what kind of ceremony we got here.
Be able to host this event today. It's kind of a historic event, I would have to say. We are welcoming in Nathan Anderson here with the Union Pacific, and of course most of you, I'm sure everybody in this room knows Miss Putnam here, our mayor. How could you know? Well, we're here to welcome in. We're right behind you, as you can see. We have the Golden Spike, and that will be staying here in Winnemucca. We also will be keeping the smaller panel to the left over there that specifically talks about Winnemucca. The bigger panel in the middle we're only privy to for the next 10 days or so before it moves on down the line to Battle Mountain for their celebration. So with that, I'm just going to hand it off to Nathan. He's just going to tell you all about the rest of it, and then Diane will give you a little talk as well.
Thanks, Dana. I appreciate it. So again, welcome on behalf of the Union Pacific Railroad and all of our employees here in the state of Nevada. I'm proud to be here to celebrate the anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad moving through Winnemucca. It's a big deal. We look out and we see the railroad today. We hop in our cars. I got on an airplane this morning. I flew to Reno. I drove here. I made up a lot of miles in a fairly short amount of time. In 1868. If you wanted to go across country, you would have spent 6 months in a horse and buggy or stagecoach or some such vehicle. If you walked, it would take longer. When the railroad was finished and the Golden Spike was driven in Promontory Summit, that cross-country trip shrank to 7 days. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine going from 6 months to 7 days in terms of the time it would take you to go from coast to coast? And what did that mean? That meant that goods and products could move. That meant that people could move, and effectively invented Western tourism. Because if you were going to take 6 months to get somewhere, you were going to stay. You were going because you were going. You weren't going because you wanted to turn around and come back. You were going. But when you could make that trip in a week, now all of a sudden you could visit places like Yosemite. You could visit Yellowstone. You could go to the Pacific Ocean and establish a vacation spot or something like that. It drove commerce, it drove vacation, and it let people connect the nation. And that was President Lincoln's goal, right? He didn't live to see it fulfilled, obviously, but in 1862, the nation was as divided as it had ever been. We were in the middle of a civil war, and he signed the Pacific Railway Act in July of 1862 and said, we need a railroad that connects this country. And it took 7 years to get it done. I know you've heard a lot of the stories. Many of them are related here on the display. The work that was done, the grading that was done, the construction, the movement of supplies, materials, and personnel, it was really, really fantastic. It's an important thing for us to remember as Union Pacific employees that we are part of your community. We operate in over 7,000 communities across the country, and I'll say that all of them are important to us, but those that are on the transcontinental route have an inextricable connection to the railroad. Kind of like when you look at your friend and you say, we grew up together, we know each other. That's how we feel about the transcontinental communities. We've grown, we've changed, we've morphed, we've in some cases separated and come back together, but we grew up together and we have that history. and it's pretty special. I know Mayor has some historical facts, some information, and just some other words to share. So while you do that, I'm going to go retrieve the golden spike, and so when you're done, we'll make a special presentation.
I want to know if you visited the mines first and really made it golden.
This one, it's golden, it's not gold. How about that?
He doesn't know our history enough to know how good we are with mining. But I do really want to welcome Nathan and what he's brought to our community and what we have the opportunity to remember how we started. Now, there have been really many significant historical events that have occurred in the United States that Winnemucca has been a part of. But this actually is one of the greater significant events, the joining of the East and West with the iron rail. The Transcontinental Railroad reached Winnemucca and points around the west in around October the 3rd of 1868. I did find that the Champion was the name of the first locomotive that was in our community. By November, the railroad was completed through Humboldt County, and then in May of 1869, the first through train passed through Winnemucca. And of course, you got to stop in Winnemucca and you got to have a party, which they did do. The train was occupied by Governor Safford, the railroad commissioners, and the president and the vice president of the Central Pacific Railroad. And this is the major stopping place for a party, so they definitely did that. I have it in historical facts now.
No argument.
The railroad really did change the history of Winnemucca, unlike any other event has ever done. It brought the world to Winnemucca, and it brought Winnemucca to the world. And it made it so that we knew Winnemucca would prosper for years and years to come. It also brought the county seat to Winnemucca. The county seat used to be in Unionville, but in 1873, it was moved to Winnemucca, and the new courthouse was put up the next year. And it was here primarily because of the railroad being here. We were then the hub of northern Nevada. And it truly made us a hub of northern Nevada. And really, we couldn't be more excited to be part of this transcontinental rerun and celebration of the Great Racer Promontory. So 150 years later, from when the first spike was hit here in Winnemucca, it's really unique to know that the railroad is still the vibrant part of the services that partake Winnemucca. And Nathan, I want to thank you for sharing this exhibit with us. I know I see some of the faces of many railroad people out here. Our community really was truly a railroad community. It's kind of passed through us now, but we have many relatives. I have relatives in my family that were engineers and brakemen and rode the rails and did all of the things that really made Winnemucca a unique place for the railroad to be a part of. And I also want to tell you that there's a little historical fact sheet back on that table that I encourage you to pick up one and read about the events and everything that transpired. Dana, our curator, does just an absolutely wonderful job of keeping us straight on historical facts and then putting together those facts and sharing them with the community. She also goes out and shares this with sixth graders locally, so I think we're very well represented. But anyway, Nathan, thank you so much for
Thank you, Mayor.
being here in Winnemucca and showing us our history.
Well, and really what a great history it is. And when you think about the things that you and I have talked about today, there's some exciting history, there's an exciting future. We continue to invest in our rail, in our infrastructure, in our locomotives. The technology continues to improve. There's a long history, but there's a long future, and it's very bright. So, without further ado, what I'd like to do is present the mayor with this replica golden spike commemorating Winnemucca, Nevada's place on the Transcontinental Railroad. And there's an inscription, and I'd like to read that, but I got to put my cheaters on to do that. It says, the Union Pacific and Central Pacific Railroads met on May 10th, 1869 at Promontory Summit, Utah. As the Golden Spike was driven, a telegrapher signaled the uniting of a nation by sending a 4-letter message, D-O-N-E. But it was just the beginning. Towns developed and the bond between UP and the early settlements grew. As we celebrate the 150th Golden Spike anniversary, Union Pacific is proud of these long-standing community relationships.
Oh, thank you
Thanks,
so
Mayor.
much. Thank you. It's not quite as heavy as gold, so maybe it is just golden. But it is a golden time.
It is a golden time, and I'm familiar with your mining in the area. Before I worked in this job, I worked in a sales business development job where we moved a lot of material for the mining customers and minerals customers around here. So I'm a little bit familiar with the good stuff in the ground.
Awesome. We do have some good stuff, and we will keep this at the museum because I really think it goes along with our displays over here that we have with our railroad. We will be having our display of the Winnemucca, Nevada area that is part of the 150 years. So this really is exciting, and thank you all for coming because it's not something that's going to stop though today or tomorrow, because as I think I understand that sometime in the early spring the steam engine will be coming through. That's huge. We love that steam engine.
That's right, and you can check that out at upsteam.com, that schedule. I don't know what the exact schedule of that is, but I would say probably sometime in middle to late April it will come through here. And I don't know about any scheduled stops or anything like that, but I know that there are those that check out UP Steam on a regular basis to find out where the steam's coming and where they can go see it. So that'll be a lot of fun.
It is. It's always fun to watch it come through our community.
And because you're close enough to get there, I will tell you that on May 9th, there will be a steam reenactment at Ogden, Utah. There's no active rail that goes to Promontory any longer, but in Ogden we'll have 2 steam locomotives, which will be kind of exciting. And then of course on May 10th, 2019, we'll have the annual reenactment of the Golden Spike being driven at Promontory Summit. You're all invited.
Awesome. You might see us all there.
I hope I do. You and about 30,000 other people probably. So come early, plan for traffic delays.
Anyway, thank you. I encourage you all to go and read the information on the displays and also to get one of the papers back there on the back desk because it gives a little bit more of the history of what went on. You know, we also had a lot of the Chinese that worked on the rails in this area.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of history that goes back to establishing the Transcontinental Railroad. So anyway, I'm excited. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
And Dana, you get...
Thank you to Dana. Thank you so much for hosting us. And we'll give you the goods because you know where to put them.
It truly belongs here, so...
I think that's really special, and thank you for leaving it with us. We're just honored to be able to have this here with us. And we'll keep it up. I mean, we're open to the public 4 days a week. We'll have the panel up as well alongside the rest of our railroad information. But like I said, this is only here for the next 10 days or so, so if you know of anybody else in the community that you're sure needs to see this, get them up here real quick. We'll be taking it down, like I said, real soon. So, also, if you haven't gotten one of the tickets to ensure our raffle or door prize for our, what the heck that book name is? My head's a different place today. Waiting for the Cars. There we go. It's really a cool book. It's a 3D images in there that are taken from the stereoscopic cards, which was the photography that Alfred Hart did. He was the railroad photographer. They went alongside the railroad with the Central Pacific when they were doing construction. So the earliest photograph we actually have of Winnemucca is in that book. It's 1868, taken by that man. So it's really cool. If you look under magnification, you can actually make out the Winnemucca Hotel sign in the very background of that image. So that is just something really special. We wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for the railroad and for Alfred Hart, who was not photography work for us. So it's a really cool book. The Railroad Museum in Carson City put that together. We'll be doing that raffle or the drawing real quick on that. So if you haven't gotten your ticket, put it in that bag. Get it real quick. And thank you all for coming in today. I'm just happy to see the faces we got in here today. It's great.
Yeah, and I have some of my city council people, Mike Owens and Paige Brooks are here. So we do support you.
And likewise, we support you.
Does go hand in hand quite well.
Thank you again.
So does anybody not have a ticket? We'll get a ticket to you.
Okay, the ceremony's over, so while everybody's milling around, I'm going to go ahead and show you some pictures of some of the old relics that we have here in the museum. Sorry about all the noise. And that was downtown Winnemucca right there in the 1800s. Look at those old cars. Oh, no, that wasn't 1800s. That had to be 1930s. Sorry about that.
Ooh, look at their guns.
They didn't have cars in the
This is what the sheriff
1800s.
used to carry. Don't lean on it, okay?
That one was way over there.
That's called a pea shooter. Did you know why?
Okay, so generally, what happens is we always have those contracts.
That old cigar mold.
They sign them up, and then somebody already.
We got right on Thomas and Train. Doing that.
And look, it shows people paying.
This is Sheriff Lamb's office in the county courthouse.
I don't know.
Notice that Sheriff Lamb's feet is a
What?
spittoon at Sheriff Lamb's feet is a spittoon similar to the one displayed in this case, which is this.
You know how now you type in the computer and then you tell the printer to print and then print it? So what they do is...
So I guess Sheriff Lamb is the one with the spittoon at his feet, which would be this gentleman right here. And I did a video on him, his famous shootout in which he got killed. And that's Sheriff Lamb, the famous sheriff of Winnemucca. Over here are some of the guns of the day. Very interesting. .32 caliber Colt. I almost thought it was a 9mm for just a second. And there's a Winchester rifle. These little tiny things. Those are also Colts. Okay, let's see what else we can find.
Not a.
Okay. This is our part of the old telegraph office. Instruments. Look at those old lanterns. Look at this old depot house. It's a Humboldt Soda and Bottling Works back in 1890s. It's called the Depot House. Not sure what those are, agitating cylinders, but I'm not sure what they were agitating. Okay, well, let's see what we got here. His uniform was worn by Harry Gum, who was a conductor for the Western Pacific Railroad for 31 years, from 1927 to 1958.
It's amazing enough extract.
Absolutely. That is the Southern Pacific Depot and Telegraph Office. That old car. I love that old car. I drool over old cars. Anyway, looks like this about wraps it up. Had a nice turnout. We're in the museum here, so there's all kinds of other things to see. But I've already done a video on this. That's a prehistoric exhibit there. Well, guys, this about wraps it up. Thanks, guys, for joining me today. Hope I didn't bore you too badly, but I thought I'd get a little bit of our history here. Give you kind of an idea. It was actually a nice presentation. It was a little more interesting than I thought it would be, but it was real fun. It was worth coming out. So you guys take care, and I'll see you again later. Thank you.